Everything about our history looks more like a makeshift. History is not taught in schools, history is not encouraged, and it's affecting our socio-cultural life in a certain way. So if you ask me again how disconnected are we from our history, I would say a great deal. The gap between us and our history is huge, and it is one of those things that has really set us back as a country and more also as a people. Our lack of education or our inability to bring history into the forefront as part of our life has really derailed a lot of things. So people see things from afar and they fear it. And these are things that they are supposed to embrace. We've kind of derailed on the lines of history for a while. And back in the 60s and 70s, our parents even had history in school. They were taught history in school, but it wasn't even what is authentic. For the mere fact that we don't have history as a subject in school, I'm saying from primary level to secondary is a big problem. So the history and the people, there's this whole big disconnect between the people and their history. So for example, it's not even as bad as the fact that we don't even teach in schools. We don't have libraries, museums don't do that. Some of our archive centers are in horrible condition, and I mean horrible with every sense of it. It's so bad that even some of the materials in the archive centers are not even well preserved and kept. And it's just bad. Like, we are a nation with almost like zero history. You go to anywhere in the Asia continent, they will literally force you to learn everything about them, their way of life. You see their culture in everything. From the moment you land at the airport, it's always about their essence. If you don't even speak their language, they won't even attend to you. You come through the Murtala Mohammed Airport in Ikeja and you just see people. You see no identity. There's nothing that says Nigeria. There's nothing that says this is who we are as a people. Even the fact that we have hundreds of different tribes and different ethnic groups. But these things ought to be right there in our front, encouraging and telling people that you need to be proud as a Yoruba man, as an Igbo man, as a Benin man, as a Ishekiri man. But hey, we just see Nigeria. We see people for people. So the disconnect and the gap and the lack of history in school has really brought us to almost a nation we are losing identity. That's just the long shot.
Much as history gives us a sense of identity, it may also help us navigate difficult existential issues that we face. With no access to our history, many people look elsewhere for answers.
We have a young, vibrant army of youth that believe in so many ideologies from the West or from other part of that are not originally ours. And even when they say it's ours, they've not studied history enough to know that we had this thing back in the days way before colonialism or something. There's this thing about feminism, which is something I personally support, but a lot of people see the concept from the Western angle. They don't see it from the African angle. Have we had women who are feminists in Nigeria who championed cause and stood for rights? Yes. Way beyond Madam Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti, way beyond Queen Ede of Benin, way beyond Alimatu Pelewura in Lagos, way beyond Queen Amina of Zaria, way beyond Madam Efunroye Tinubu, way beyond Alaafin Ajun, way beyond. But because we've not studied our history well enough, we think a lot of people still believe or embrace that idea of Western feminism. Meanwhile, they should have studied our history and understand the essence that women played in the African Nigerian society. Women ran things back in the days. You know, there's this popular phrase in Yoruba that says Obìnrin ló láyé. It is not far-fetched. It is not just something that rolls off the tongue of a Yoruba man or other tribes. It is because they actually do. And that's just a part of our history. That's just part of our essence. So we need to find a way to bring this thing back, because some of these youths, vibrant, well-educated, well-articulated, brilliant, go-getters, some of them are doing amazing stuff in their field, but the disconnect between them and their history or their culture or their heritage has really caused this misguided or misinformed pattern of life that they live, which is not supposed to be so. If we don't learn or understand our past well as Nigerians, we'll keep repeating the same mistakes. And for the last 20 years, I think we've been repeating the same mistakes. If you look at even the political structure of the country and political happenings and everything happening in this country, it's still the same thing that has happened. Okay, let's take the issue of this EndSARS into focus. And you look at this issue of youths standing up and saying we don't want this, and organizing system themselves. Have we really had this kind of situation before, but not under EndSARS? Yes, we've had the Ali Must Go riot. We've had the SAP riot in the 80s. We've had the June 12 riot. Some of our student union leaders back then were even in their 20s. Some of them were 18, 19, running an army of 30,000 students. A lot of them at the same time have said, they say our father's generation, they failed us, they didn't do this thing, but your fathers also fought their own struggle in their 20s back in school, back in the days. So because we've not learned from this mistake and even how the Nigerian government works and how they interpret protest, we keep making the same mistakes again. And that's what happened in Lekki when some people said people were killed and some people said people weren't killed. But people were missing, and it's still the same fact that we need to understand our history. We need to learn from it. We need to learn from the mistakes that we made in the past to understand how we can walk into the future.
The facts of history are not all documented on the pages of books. Cultural practices, festivals, and religions are tools of history, but they are largely misunderstood.
In modern day, there's just a lot of misconception, and people think because it's history or because it's culture or it is fetish and it is evil and you will die if you go through these days. But they forget that those mediums, even festival as a collective body of work, is a way where people do preserve history in a way. I mean, you see some certain dance and rite, and it goes back to the 1600, and there are sacred dances and worships, and it tells history as a general. So when you start diluting that essence, when you start removing chunks of blocks away from those festivals of those body of work, it's collapsing the wall of history. People back in the villages and towns where they still have festivals and stuff, they don't do it the way it's been done over the years. That preservation of those strong connecting lines that form the basis of those history are not that there. What they are trying to, most often are not, is just for them to keep up with tradition. If it's a cultural festival, it definitely speaks one part of history. There's this oral angle, there's this art performance level. There are so many pulling factors that makes it part of that history in that community. And over the years, movies and other mediums of art or communication have really portrayed these things to be demonic or devilish. Well, I mean, some of the things the society, we've really misinterpreted a lot of things around our cultural belief that makes it look fetish or diabolic in a way. So people go to church on Sunday and they end up saying Ajay on Monday to somebody they just bought something from. Ajay is the god of wealth, is the god of trade, is the god of commerce. So are you trying to say I'm not being consistent with my faith, or you say I'm just a Christian on Sunday and I'm traditional? No, it's just courtesy. In Yoruba land, these are like courtesy. This is as good as seeing your mom in the morning and say a karom and you prostrate or you kneel down as a form of respect.
As the gap in the understanding of our history grows, the need to fill the gap becomes urgent.
So I started Ashiri Magazine 7 years ago. I wanted to teach the world about Nigerian history. I wanted the world to see Nigeria from a different point of view. I wanted the world to see Nigeria from a country, a people with amazing, beautiful history. And one of these evenings, I was talking to my mom, and she was telling me stories about my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my great-maternal uncle. There was this particular great-maternal uncle who fought in the Kiriji War. The Kiriji War was the longest civil ethnic battle in world history. And I was impressed with the story. I was quite amazed. Like, I had somebody in my family that was in this war. And I said to myself, okay, fine. I was writing a book on it. I said, if I was going to write this book about my uncle, that's just one friction or one pinpoint of history in the entire country's history. And the need for that actually gave back to me trying to do more research into telling different stories from different parts of the country. And Ashiri came forward. It took me 2 years to figure out the name because I wanted to use a name that would resonate, effect, not just history and culture and art, but something that would mean something at the same time. So Ashiri as a word means secret in Yoruba. It means the same thing in Igbo, Hausa, Nupe, Igala, Swahili, and the 7 other languages. And I picked up the name and I fine, this is the name I would want to use for my brand. And I started writing. We started with a digital magazine that we started with back then, and we were lucky enough to produce 8 editions of different history, from the Jaja Fupobo to Madam Tinubu to the first Owa Obokun of Ijesa Land to the story about the Wars of Kano, the entire Wars of Kano. We documented the entire history, to a story on Madam Idua, to something on Queen Amina. We had 8 editions. We had some partnership with the Spanish and Russian embassy in Nigeria. So we translated it into Spanish, into Russian, into Portuguese, into French, into German, into Yoruba, into Igbo, into Hausa. The first 3 years was a lot of work. What we did, we had a website. So we load up the magazine on Dropbox and people go there to download. And back there we do, for this 5th edition, which was the Queen Idua issue, which was a very brilliant edition. Like, telling Benin stories has always been like second thing best to jollof rice for me. And we had within 2 months, we had over 900 downloads. And this is back in 2013 or so. After we stopped producing the digital magazine, we went online. We had a website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we started doing proper research into archival images, archival photos, family history, Nigerian history. We have people that have done amazing exploits back in the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, even in 1900. So how would you show somebody in China or in Japan or in the US these things, if not bringing yourself into the digital space? I'm saying social media, I'm saying having a website, I'm saying, putting yourself out there with different digital tools. So for me, the reason why we started actually was because we wanted to use the online presence to further the teachings or the course of Nigerian history, and that's what we did.
The feeling of reading history through a virtual media can in no way be compared to the experience of being in the same space with a historical artifact. The need to create deeper experience and better appreciation of history has added art exhibitions to the work that Adedamola does.
Creating has always been part of me in a way, but I didn't start creating till 2018. For the first 5 years at Ashiri, we were doing quite a lot of putting online information, archival magazine, video, footages and stuff. And for me, I personally feel I need to move out of that space and start doing something in that same line of telling Nigerian story. So I started creating in 2018, and so far I've created quite a number of exhibitions. I started with an exhibition in Ogun State for the Ogun State Government African Drum Festival, which was a festival that was celebrating art and culture in Ogun State. So there was this particular one had the celebration of all Ogun State indigenes and the arts, from Fela to Ebenezer Obey to Ogunde to Ayinla Ọmọwúrà to Salawa to Wasiu. And I had like 3 weeks to put together something with over 25 or 30 artists. So it was a very amazing exhibition, and from then I've moved on to creating exhibitions for the British Council. I've created exhibitions for Professor Wole Soyinka. I've done one for Chief Ebenezer Obey. I've hosted like 3 or 4 exhibitions at Lagos Book Art and Festival, Labaf at Freedom Park. For me, it's an avenue to tell more stories, which is a very advanced or deliberate way that the audience can interact or interrogate the body of works at the exhibition room. What we have here is actually something that I created in conjunction with Terra Culture and the Federal Ministry of Arts and Culture, titled Cycles of Fashion. Everything you see in this room are all women outfit and accessories and clothes and style. See original coral beads. These are very rare, precious items. And you can see something from the northern Nigeria. You can see something from the Cross Edo, something from the Tiv, something from the Fulani, and right beside you is something from Yoruba land. So this is the women's room. Everything celebrating the beauty and the essence of Nigerian women. This is just we call it the Room of Thrones, the royal room. And this is a beaded crown too, with embellishment of birds and human faces. This is something from the Yoruba land, as you can see. She's a regent, looking all glamorous. This bedazzled or bejeweled crown, it's a donation from Obadeni Jadele. Obadeni Jadele actually won this crown. If you've seen some of his famous pictures, you actually see this crown on one of the crowns there on his head. This is from the northern part of Nigeria. You can see stylish and looking elegant as usual. Whoever controls your history controls your narrative. A part of our history forms our lives, forms a collective form of who we are as a person. So if that form, if that essence of history is not in the wheels that moves our lives, we actually don't have nothing. During the Second World War, the German forces were getting close to London and they were bombing some areas part in the UK and they were getting to the heart of London itself. And the then Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, went to the House of Commons, is it House of Commons or House of Lords? One of the houses, and said he needs budget to preserve some certain cultural, religious or sacred landmarks in London. And I mean, at first I think they refused him, but he put forward a very serious argument to say the reason why we're fighting this war is because to save the lives of our children in the future, to save our future, to save our essence.
Here we are, together, facing a group of mighty foes who seek our ruin. Here we are, together, defending all that to free men is dear. Twice in a single generation, the catastrophe of world war has fallen upon us. Twice in our lifetime has the long arm of fate reached out across the oceans to bring the United States into the forefront of the battle. If we had kept together after the last war, if we had taken common measures for our safety, this renewal of the curse need never have fallen upon us.
Imagine a nation with no history, or almost a history that people don't feel like they need to preserve it, they need to fight for it, they need to protect it.
Preserving the histories of the Nigerian people will need the joint efforts of citizens and government. There are individuals who are committed to this work, but a lot more is still desired from the government.
The government is not doing well enough. Cultural institutions and museums and centers are in shambles. The government don't understand that the core of the people's art or the people's essence, the people's heritage is their lives, is that spark that keeps life going on, that keeps humanity rolling in its full form. So I don't think the government is doing well enough. I think they should do more. We have some private individuals who have stepped up from their own space of comfort to preserve history. We have people contributing to keep the culture alive with different festivals, film festivals, cultural festivals, book festivals. So I think the government should start by supporting these individuals. I think the government should not politicize our history or our lives as Nigerians. It's almost like a typical trend for the Nigerian government to politicize everything and make it politics. Is whether it's a party thing or it's a tribal thing. No, this is about people. This is about the cause to save humanity, our humanity as Nigerians. You need to leave something behind for the generation to come. You just need to leave something behind. That's all.